What if the key to living a meaningful life isn't about achieving more, but about truly experiencing what's already here? In a world driven by goals, deadlines, and endless pursuits, it's easy to feel like life is a race we must win or a puzzle we need to solve. But what if life is neither of these things? What if, instead, it's a fleeting masterpiece meant to be savored moment by moment? Today, we'll explore the profound concept of impermanence through the lens of the Japanese philosophy Ichigo Ichie, which translates to one time, one meeting. This philosophy teaches us that each moment is unique, unrepeatable, and deserving of our full presence. It's not just a poetic idea, it's a practical guide to living more deeply and finding joy in the ordinary. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with actionable lessons on how to shift your mindset from chasing happiness to savoring it. Through personal stories, transformative insights, and timeless wisdom, we'll uncover how embracing the impermanence of life can unlock true peace, gratitude, and fulfillment. Life isn't something to conquer, it's something to love one precious moment at a time. Let's begin. Number 1. The uniqueness of each moment. Life is an intricate mosaic of moments, each as unique and unrepeatable as a snowflake drifting from the sky. Yet, in the whirlwind of our busy lives, we often fail to notice the beauty of these fleeting instances, consumed instead by the noise of expectations, plans, and regrets. The Japanese philosophy of Ichigo Ichie teaches us that every moment is a once-in-a-lifetime meeting, a singular opportunity to experience life in its fullness. This idea isn't just poetic, it's transformative, offering a path to profound joy and clarity when we pause to embrace the present with intention and mindfulness. Consider the story of a busy individual, overwhelmed by the constant demands of work, family, and an endless to-do list. Each morning, they would brew a cup of tea, but instead of enjoying it, their mind would race ahead, consumed by thoughts of upcoming meetings, unanswered emails, or the chaos of the day. One day, this person decided to slow down, inspired by a book on mindfulness they'd stumbled upon. They resolved to make tea not as a chore, but as a ritual. As the kettle boiled, they paid attention to the sound of the water bubbling and the steam rising gracefully. They watched the tea leaves unfurl as hot water poured over them, releasing an earthy, calming aroma. Holding the warm cup in their hands, they took a deliberate sip, savoring the rich, complex flavors as though tasting them for the first time. In that moment, they weren't thinking about the past or planning for the future, they were simply present, and it felt like stepping into a still, sacred space amidst the chaos of life. This seemingly small act of presence led to an epiphany. Life is made up of such moments, but how many do we allow to slip by unnoticed? By embracing each one, no matter how mundane, we can transform ordinary routines into extraordinary experiences. When we view life through this lens, brushing our teeth, walking to the store, or even folding laundry become opportunities to connect with ourselves and the world around us. Each moment holds its own magic, waiting for us to notice. However, truly cherishing each moment requires deliberate effort, as modern life often pulls us in multiple directions at once. We live in an age that glorifies multitasking and constant productivity, where success is measured by milestones achieved and tasks completed. But this approach blinds us to the beauty of what's happening right now. Imagine someone walking through a blooming garden, eyes glued to their phone, oblivious to the vibrant flowers and the sweet scent of nature. Isn't this how many of us navigate life, so focused on what's ahead that we forget to appreciate what's right in front of us? To break free from this pattern, we can cultivate mindfulness by intentionally slowing down and tuning into our senses. For example, the next time you drink coffee, don't gulp it down while checking emails or scrolling through your phone. Instead, notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the aroma wafting upwards, the way the liquid feels as it glides down your throat. Even this brief moment of mindfulness can ground you, creating a ripple effect that enhances your mood and focus throughout the day. Gratitude also plays a vital role in appreciating the uniqueness of each moment. By reflecting on the small joys of your day, a kind smile from a stranger, the sound of rain tapping on the window, or the comfort of a favorite chair, you shift your perspective from scarcity to abundance. Gratitude journals are a powerful tool for this practice. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to write down 3 moments that brought you peace or happiness. Over time, this simple habit helps you realize that life isn't lacking in beauty, it's overflowing with treasures you may have overlooked. Equally important is letting go of perfection. Life, like the moments that compose it, doesn't have to be flawless to be meaningful. A chipped coffee mug might hold the richest memories, just as a sunset obscured by clouds still carries its own quiet charm. By embracing imperfections, we release ourselves from the constant pressure to curate and control every aspect of our lives. Instead, we can savor moments as they are, messy edges and all, and find beauty in their authenticity. The lesson here is simple yet profound: the present moment is a gift, unrepeatable and irreplaceable. By slowing down, practicing gratitude, and embracing imperfection, we can begin to see life not as a series of tasks to conquer but as a rich tapestry of experiences to cherish. Remember, you will never live this exact moment again. Pause. Breathe. Notice the details: the way sunlight filters through the leaves, the hum of distant laughter, or the comforting silence of a still room. These are the threads that weave the fabric of a meaningful life. Cherish them before they fade, for in their fleeting nature lies their greatest value. Number 2, the beauty of impermanence. Impermanence is one of the most profound truths of existence, and though it can evoke fear or sadness, it is also what makes life extraordinary. The fleeting nature of everything we know, the relationships we nurture, the experiences we cherish, and even our own existence teaches us to appreciate the value of the present moment. Buddhist philosophy views impermanence not as a source of suffering but as a gift, a reminder that nothing lasts forever and that this transience gives each moment its richness and meaning. Without impermanence, beauty would lose its impact, and the connections we hold dear would no longer feel so sacred. To truly understand impermanence, consider how relationships evolve over time. Friendships come and go, family members age, and romantic bonds change in depth and texture. Each of these transitions carries with it a bittersweet awareness that what we have now will not remain the same. For example, I recall a deeply personal memory of my grandmother, who was an anchor in my early life. She had a way of making even the simplest moments feel special. Baking cookies with her was not just about the treats but about the laughter, the shared stories, and the warmth of her presence. I was too young then to fully grasp the preciousness of those moments, but as I grew older, I began to notice the small signs of her aging, her slower steps, her fading eyesight, and the way her voice carried more wisdom but also a quiet fragility. Eventually, she passed away, and though her absence left an ache, it also taught me one of life's most valuable lessons: to treasure the connections we have while we still have them. That realization reshaped the way I view impermanence. At first, I resisted it, wanting to hold on to people and moments as though I could freeze them in time. But over the years, I've come to see that impermanence is not an enemy to fight, it's a teacher urging us to live more fully. The awareness that nothing is permanent inspires us to be more present, more intentional, and more loving. Instead of taking relationships for granted, we begin to honor them as the temporary yet beautiful experiences they are. Imagine a cherry blossom tree in full bloom. Its delicate petals are stunning, but part of what makes them so breathtaking is their impermanence. They bloom for only a short while, and then they fall, carried away by the wind. If cherry blossoms bloomed year-round, would we still marvel at them with the same awe? Probably not. Their brevity is what makes them so precious. In the same way, Life's transience encourages us to appreciate the people we care about and the moments we share with them. Too often, we let trivial distractions or unresolved grudges cloud our relationships. We postpone visits, leave important words unsaid, and assume there will always be more time. But the truth is, time is fleeting, and relationships are fragile. Impermanence reminds us to prioritize what truly matters and to let go of what doesn't. When we accept this truth, we begin to approach our connections with greater mindfulness and gratitude. One of the most profound practices we can adopt is learning to fully savor the moments we have with others. For instance, instead of half listening to a loved one while scrolling through your phone, try giving them your undivided attention. Notice the tone of their voice, the way their eyes light up when they talk about something they care about, and the little quirks that make them uniquely them. These details may seem insignificant in the moment, but they become the memories we hold onto when that person is no longer around. It's not about grand gestures or elaborate plans, it's about being fully present, treating each interaction as a sacred exchange that won't come again in the same way. Impermanence also teaches us to let go of attachment to perfection. Relationships, like life itself, are rarely flawless. There are misunderstandings, disagreements, and moments of distance, but these imperfections don't diminish their value. In fact, they often enhance it. Just as a cracked vase can still hold water and flowers, a relationship with its share of struggles can still be a source of deep connection and joy. My grandmother, for example, was not without her flaws. She could be stubborn, and we didn't always see eye to eye. But those imperfections made her human, and in retrospect, they are part of what I love most about her: the way she stood firm in her beliefs, even when I disagreed, and the way her quirks made her irreplaceably her. Another lesson of impermanence is the importance of forgiveness. Holding on to resentment or anger is like trying to stop the flow of a river. It only causes tension and prevents us from moving forward. When we remember that time is limited, we realize that grudges are a waste of the precious moments we could spend nurturing love and understanding. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means releasing the weight of anger so that we can make space for healing. It's a way of honoring the impermanence of both pain and joy, recognizing that everything is in constant motion and that clinging to negative emotions only keeps us stuck. Finally, impermanence encourages us to live with a sense of urgency, not the frantic urgency of trying to do everything at once, but the quiet urgency of appreciating what's here and now. If you knew that today was the last day you'd spend with someone you love, how would you show up? Would you be kinder, more patient, or more willing to set aside distractions and just be with them? This mindset doesn't mean living in fear of loss. It means living with a deeper appreciation for the present. It's a reminder that every hug, every conversation, and every shared laugh is a gift. In the end, impermanence is not something to fear, it's something to embrace. It teaches us to treasure life's beauty precisely because it doesn't last forever. By accepting the fleeting nature of everything we hold dear, we can begin to live more fully, love more deeply, and find joy in the simple, unrepeatable moments that make up our lives. The memory of my grandmother remains a guiding light in this lesson, reminding me that though her presence was temporary, the love and wisdom she left behind are eternal. This is the paradox of impermanence: even as it takes, it also gives. It strips away illusions of permanence but leaves behind a clarity that makes life all the more precious. If we can learn to see impermanence not as a loss but as a call to cherish, we can transform the way we experience our relationships and, indeed, our entire existence. Number 3. The freedom of single tasking. The practice of single tasking, focusing on one thing at a time with complete attention, is a radical shift from the way most of us live. In a world where multitasking is celebrated as a badge of productivity, single tasking may seem counterintuitive or even inefficient. However, The truth is that trying to juggle multiple things simultaneously often leaves us scattered, exhausted, and less effective. Embracing the art of single tasking can lead to a profound sense of peace, clarity, and fulfillment, allowing us to reconnect with the present moment in a way that multitasking never can. This shift in perspective is not just theoretical, it's transformative and deeply personal, as I've learned through my own journey to regain mental clarity and focus. I vividly recall a time when I was consumed by the demands of daily life. My to-do list seemed endless, and I prided myself on my ability to juggle tasks, answering emails while eating lunch, scrolling through social media during meetings, and even trying to brainstorm ideas while spending time with friends and family. I believed that the more I could accomplish at once, the more successful and efficient I would be. But instead of feeling productive, I felt drained. My attention was fragmented. The turning point came during a walk in nature that I initially treated as just another item on my checklist. I had intended to use the time to think through work problems and mentally plan the rest of my day. But something unexpected happened. As I walked, the natural world began to demand my attention in subtle yet profound ways. I heard the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze, the distant chirping of birds, and the rhythmic crunch of gravel beneath my feet. I noticed the way sunlight filtered through the canopy of trees, creating intricate patterns on the ground. For the first time in what felt like months, I wasn't thinking about deadlines, notifications, or future plans. I was simply walking and being fully present with each step, each sound, and each sensation. It was a moment of pure mindfulness, and it felt like a weight had been lifted from my mind. This experience sparked a realization. I had been so focused on doing as much as possible that I had forgotten how to fully experience anything. Single tasking, I learned, is not just about focusing on one task, it's about giving your full attention to the present moment and allowing yourself to engage deeply with whatever you are doing, no matter how simple or mundane it may seem. That walk in nature became a metaphor for how I wanted to approach life, one step at a time, with awareness and intention. The freedom of single tasking lies in its ability to strip away the noise and clutter that multitasking creates. When we try to do too many things at once, our brain is forced to switch rapidly between tasks, which not only reduces our efficiency but also depletes our mental energy. Studies have shown that multitasking can increase stress levels and impair cognitive function, leading to a phenomenon known as attention residue, where fragments of one task linger in your mind and interfere with your ability to fully focus on the next. In contrast, single tasking allows us to direct our full mental resources toward one activity, which enhances both our performance and our sense of satisfaction. To embrace single tasking, it's essential to cultivate mindfulness in our daily routines. This can begin with small, intentional practices. For example, consider your morning coffee or tea. Instead of drinking it while scrolling through your phone or rushing out the door, take a moment to fully experience it. Notice the warmth of the cup in your hands, the aroma rising from the liquid, the taste and texture as you take a sip. This simple act, when done mindfully, can become a moment of calm and grounding that sets the tone for the rest of your day. Similarly, when you're working on a project, try closing all unnecessary tabs on your computer, putting your phone on silent, and dedicating a set amount of time to focus solely on that one task. You'll likely find that not only do you complete the task more efficiently, but you also feel a greater sense of accomplishment when it's done. Another powerful way to practice single tasking is through mindful walking, as I experienced on that transformative day in nature. Walking, when done mindfully, becomes more than just a means of getting from one place to another. It becomes an opportunity to connect with your surroundings and with yourself. As you walk, pay attention to the rhythm of your steps, the sensation of your feet meeting the ground, and the sounds and sights around you. Each step becomes an anchor, grounding you in the present moment and freeing your mind from the distractions that usually pull it in multiple directions. Single tasking also extends to how we interact with others. In a world where conversations are often interrupted by phone notifications or divided attention, giving someone your full presence is a rare and valuable gift. The next time you're speaking with a friend, family member, or colleague, try to set aside all distractions and focus entirely on them. Listen not just to their words but to their tone, body language, and emotions. This level of attentiveness not only deepens your connection with others but also enriches your own experience of the interaction. You'll find that these moments of true presence leave a lasting impression, fostering stronger relationships and a greater sense of fulfillment. One of the challenges of single tasking is learning to resist the urge to constantly check your phone, switch tasks, or think ahead to what's next. This requires cultivating patience and letting go of the fear of missing out. It's a practice of trusting that the present moment is enough and that by giving it your full attention, you are investing in something meaningful. Over time, single tasking can become a habit, one that brings a sense of peace and clarity to even the busiest days. Reflecting on my journey, I've realized that single tasking is not about doing less, it's about experiencing more. It's about reclaiming our attention from the endless demands of modern life and directing it toward what truly matters. By focusing on one thing at a time, we create space for deeper engagement, greater creativity, and a more profound appreciation for the world around us. Whether it's through a mindful walk, a focused work session, or a heartfelt conversation, single tasking offers a pathway to reconnect with ourselves and rediscover the joy and freedom that come from being fully present. Number 4. Releasing regret and anxiety. Regret and anxiety are two of the heaviest burdens we carry. Regret ties us to the past, replaying mistakes and missed opportunities, while anxiety pulls us into the future, filling our minds with worry about what might go wrong. Together, they rob us of the only time we truly have the present moment. Letting go of regret and anxiety is not about dismissing our emotions or pretending they don't exist. Rather, it's about acknowledging them, learning from them, and ultimately choosing to free ourselves from their grip. Mindfulness offers the way to release these burdens, creating space for peace and clarity in our lives. Regret often stems from our desire to rewrite the past. We wish we had spoken up in a critical moment, acted differently in a relationship, or taken a path we avoided. These thoughts can become all-consuming, as though dwelling on them might somehow change the outcome. I personally experienced this cycle during a period in my life when I couldn't let go of a professional mistake I'd made. I had missed an important opportunity due to procrastination, and the fallout felt enormous. I replayed the scenario in my mind endlessly, imagining all the ways I could have acted differently. At first, I thought this reflection was productive, but over time, I realized it was doing nothing but deepening my pain. I was stuck in a loop, unable to move forward because I was so fixated on the past. The breakthrough came when I decided to approach the situation with mindfulness. Instead of trying to push the regret away, I allowed myself to sit with it. I wrote about the experience in a journal, describing not only what had happened but also how it made me feel. I acknowledged my disappointment, my embarrassment, and my frustration with myself. Then, I asked myself a key question: what can I learn from this? By shifting my focus from self-recrimination to self-reflection, I began to see the situation not as a failure but as a lesson. I realized the importance of time management and preparation, and I identified specific steps I could take to avoid making the same mistake in the future. Writing it down felt like lifting a weight off my shoulders. The regret didn't disappear overnight, but it no longer held the same power over me. Instead of being trapped in the past, I was able to extract wisdom from it and move forward with greater clarity. Anxiety, on the other hand, arises from our desire to control the future. It whispers, "What if?" and spins endless scenarios of what could go wrong. While some degree of planning is necessary and even healthy, anxiety often pushes us beyond preparation into a state of constant worry. This can leave us feeling paralyzed, as though we're living in a future that hasn't even happened yet. For me, anxiety often took the form of overthinking. I would spend hours imagining worst-case scenarios, trying to anticipate every possible outcome of a decision. This mental overdrive left me exhausted and unable to enjoy the present. It wasn't until I began practicing grounding techniques that I found relief. One particularly effective method I've used is the 5-4-3-2-1 grounding exercise. When I feel anxiety creeping in, I pause and take a deep breath. Then, I identify 5 things I can see, 4 things I can touch, 3 things I can hear, 2 things I can smell, and 1 thing I can taste. This practice immediately pulls me out of my anxious thoughts and into the present moment. It reminds me that right now, I am safe, and that most of the things I worry about are beyond my control. Grounding techniques like this are simple but powerful tools for breaking the cycle of anxiety and reconnecting with reality. Another valuable practice for releasing both regret and anxiety is mindfulness meditation. Meditation helps us observe our thoughts without judgment, allowing us to see them for what they are, temporary and not necessarily true. When meditating, I often visualize my regrets and anxieties as leaves floating down a river. I watch them appear, acknowledge their presence, and then let them drift away. This visualization reinforces the idea that my thoughts do not define me and that I have the power to let them go. Letting go of regret and anxiety doesn't mean ignoring the past or dismissing the future. It means refusing to let them dominate our lives. Regret can be a teacher, showing us where we can grow and improve. Anxiety can be a signal, alerting us to areas of uncertainty that may require attention. But neither should dictate how we live in the present. When we hold on to these emotions too tightly, we lose sight of the opportunities and joys that are right in front of us. Gratitude is another antidote to the grip of regret and anxiety. When we focus on what we have rather than what we lack or fear losing, we begin to see the abundance in our lives. Each day, I make it a point to write down 3 things I'm grateful for. These can be small, a kind word from a friend, the warmth of the sun on my face, or a delicious meal, or significant, like a professional achievement or a meaningful conversation. This practice shifts my perspective, reminding me that even amidst challenges, there is always something to appreciate. It's also important to set boundaries with ourselves. When regret or anxiety arises, we can acknowledge it without letting it spiral. For example, if you find yourself ruminating on a past mistake, set a timer for 5 minutes and allow yourself to think about it during that time. When the timer goes off, consciously redirect your attention to something else, a hobby, a conversation, or even just taking a few deep breaths. This technique trains your mind to recognize that while these thoughts may visit, they do not have to stay. Forgiveness is another crucial aspect of releasing regret. Often, the hardest person to forgive is ourselves. We hold ourselves to impossible standards, expecting perfection, and punishing ourselves when we fall short. But forgiveness is not about excusing mistakes, it's about accepting our humanity. Everyone makes errors, and those errors are part of the learning process. By forgiving ourselves, we create space for growth and self-compassion. Lastly, releasing regret and anxiety involves embracing uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and no amount of planning can guarantee a specific outcome. This realization can be freeing if we allow it to be. Instead of clinging to the illusion of control, we can learn to flow with life's changes and trust that we have the resilience to handle whatever comes our way. This mindset doesn't eliminate challenges, but it changes how we respond to them, making us more adaptable and less fearful. Through mindfulness, gratitude, and forgiveness, we can learn to release the burdens of regret and anxiety. These emotions may still arise from time to time, but they no longer have to dominate our lives. By focusing on the present moment, we can find peace and clarity, embracing life as it unfolds rather than getting stuck in what was or what might be. Letting go is not about forgetting the past or ignoring the future. It's about choosing to live fully in the present, where life truly happens. Number 5. Loving more deeply through awareness. Loving deeply requires more than affection. It demands awareness, presence, and a willingness to embrace the fleeting nature of life. When we cultivate awareness of impermanence, our relationships are transformed. We begin to see those we care about not as constants in our lives but as unique individuals we are privileged to share time with, even if only for a moment. This awareness infuses our connections with a sense of urgency, not a frantic or desperate urgency, but a quiet, profound understanding that every interaction is precious and unrepeatable. Awareness of this truth helps us love more deeply, showing up fully for the people who matter most. I learned this lesson in a deeply personal way during a strained period in my relationship with my father. Our interactions had become routine, marked by surface-level conversations and polite distance. We rarely argued, but we also rarely connected on a meaningful level. I often assumed there would be time later to bridge the gap, to have the heartfelt conversations we both avoided, and to repair the quiet tension that had grown between us. It wasn't until a health scare shook our family that I realized how much time we had lost by taking each other's presence for granted. Suddenly, the illusion of later vanished, and I was confronted with the fragile reality of our time together. This awareness became a catalyst for change. I decided to approach my relationship with my father differently, with a commitment to being fully present. One day, instead of rushing through our usual brief phone call, I made an intentional effort to listen not just to his words but to the emotions behind them. I asked questions about his life, his memories, and his thoughts on things we had never discussed before. At first, he seemed surprised by my sudden attentiveness, but as the conversation deepened, I could sense his guardedness soften. He began to share stories from his childhood, moments of joy and struggle that I had never known about. That evening, I learned more about my father than I had in years, and I realized how much I had missed by being physically present but emotionally absent in our prior interactions. This experience taught me the transformative power of intentional listening. It's easy to assume we know everything about the people we're close to, but when we approach them with fresh curiosity and a willingness to truly hear them, we discover new depths in their character and their story. By practicing mindful presence, we open the door to greater intimacy and understanding. Each conversation becomes an opportunity to strengthen the bond and to honor the uniqueness of the moment, which will never come again in exactly the same way. Awareness of impermanence not only enhances our relationships but also reshapes how we approach love itself. Too often, we hold back from expressing our feelings out of fear of rejection, fear of vulnerability, or fear that the relationship might not last. But when we remember that nothing in life is permanent, we realize that love is not about guarantees, it's about showing up fully, regardless of the outcome. This awareness encourages us to express our gratitude, affection, and appreciation without hesitation. Whether it's through a kind word, a heartfelt gesture, or simply making time for someone, these acts of love become even more meaningful when we recognize their impermanence. One of the most powerful ways to practice loving deeply is to cultivate presence in everyday moments. It's not just about grand gestures or dramatic declarations, it's about the small, quiet ways we show up for each other. For example, consider the simple act of sharing a meal with a loved one. Instead of eating in silence or multitasking with your phone, try turning off all distractions and giving your full attention to the person across from you. Notice the way they smile, the cadence of their voice, and the stories they share. This mindful attention turns an ordinary meal into a sacred ritual of connection. Another key aspect of loving deeply is letting go of perfection. No relationship is without its challenges, and no person is without their flaws. Awareness of impermanence helps us see that these imperfections are not barriers to love but opportunities to grow closer. When we accept our loved ones as they are, rather than as we wish them to be, we create a space of safety and authenticity. This acceptance fosters deeper trust and mutual respect, allowing the relationship to flourish even in the face of difficulties. Gratitude is another essential practice for deepening love through awareness. When we focus on what we appreciate about the people in our lives, we begin to see them in a new light. Instead of dwelling on their shortcomings or the ways they might have disappointed us, we shift our attention to their kindness, their strengths, and the unique qualities that make them who they are. Keeping a gratitude journal specifically for relationships can be a powerful tool. Each day, write down one thing you love or admire about someone in your life. Over time, this practice not only strengthens your bond with that person but also nurtures your own sense of appreciation and contentment. Forgiveness also plays a critical role in loving more deeply. In every relationship, there will be moments of misunderstanding, hurt, or disappointment. Holding on to resentment only creates distance, whereas forgiveness brings healing and renewal. This doesn't mean condoning harmful behavior or ignoring your own boundaries. It means choosing to release the bitterness that weighs on your heart. When we forgive, we free ourselves to love without the barriers of past pain. Forgiveness becomes easier when we remember that life is fleeting and that our time with others is too precious to waste on unresolved anger. Lastly, awareness of impermanence inspires us to cherish the present moment with those we love. Instead of focusing on what the future might hold, whether it's fear of loss or expectations of how things should be, we can embrace what is. This perspective allows us to find joy in the simplest interactions, whether it's a shared laugh, a quiet conversation, or even just sitting in comfortable silence together. By letting go of our attachment to outcomes, we free ourselves to love fully and unconditionally. Through presence, gratitude, forgiveness, and acceptance, we can cultivate a love that is deep, meaningful, and resilient. Awareness of impermanence doesn't diminish our relationships, it enriches them by reminding us of their value. Every hug, every kind word, and every shared moment becomes a gift, shining brightly against the backdrop of life's transience. When we approach love with this mindset, we not only strengthen our bonds with others but also transform our own hearts, creating a life filled with connection, compassion, and joy. Number 6. Creating joy through attention. Joy is not a distant destination or a grand achievement. It is often hidden in the small, overlooked moments of our daily lives. The problem is, we are often too preoccupied with the next task, the next milestone, or the next pursuit to notice the simple treasures right in front of us. By redirecting our attention and tuning into these small moments, we can uncover a reservoir of happiness that is always available, regardless of our circumstances. This is not about ignoring life's challenges but about shifting our focus to the beauty and richness that exist in even the most mundane routines. One of the clearest lessons I've learned about creating joy through attention came during a time when I felt completely stuck. Life had become a cycle of deadlines, responsibilities, and stress, leaving little room for anything that resembled joy. One afternoon, I found myself outside in the garden, not out of a desire for mindfulness, but simply because I needed to escape the demands of my inbox and the endless notifications on my phone. At first, I moved mechanically, pulling weeds and watering plants, my mind still racing with worries about work. But as I continued, something shifted. I began to notice the earthy smell of the soil, the vibrant green of the leaves, and the delicate patterns on each flower petal. A bee buzzed nearby, and I stopped to watch it hover from bloom to bloom, completely immersed in its task. For the first time in weeks, My thoughts slowed, and I felt a quiet joy that seemed to rise from nowhere. That moment taught me an essential truth: joy isn't something we have to chase, it's something we allow ourselves to experience when we are fully present. It's the result of paying attention, not to the grand or extraordinary, but to the small, everyday details we so often overlook. When we shift our focus from what's missing in our lives to what's already here, we begin to see that happiness is woven into the fabric of our daily existence. One way to cultivate this mindset is to practice mindful attention during ordinary routines. Think about your morning rituals: brewing coffee, brushing your teeth, or getting dressed. These are tasks most of us perform on autopilot, barely registering what we are doing because our minds are already on the day ahead. But what if you slowed down and gave these moments your full attention? When making coffee, notice the sound of the beans grinding, the aroma that fills the air, and the warmth of the mug in your hands. Instead of rushing through the act of brushing your teeth, focus on the sensation of the toothbrush moving across your teeth and the freshness of the minty toothpaste. These small acts of mindfulness transform routine moments into opportunities for joy, grounding you in the present and reminding you of life's simple pleasures. Another way to find joy through attention is to spend time in nature. Whether it's a walk in the park, sitting by a river, or simply standing on your balcony and feeling the breeze, nature has a way of slowing us down and reconnecting us with the present. Pay attention to the details: the way sunlight filters through the leaves, the sound of birdsong, or the intricate patterns of a spider's web. These moments don't demand anything from us, they simply invite us to notice and appreciate. In doing so, we allow ourselves to step out of the mental chatter that often dominates our lives and into a space of quiet contentment. Gratitude is also a powerful tool for creating joy through attention. By focusing on what we're thankful for, we train our minds to notice and appreciate the positive aspects of our lives. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It means recognizing that even in challenging times, there are moments of beauty, kindness, or comfort. At the end of each day, take a few minutes to reflect on 3 things that brought you joy or peace. Maybe it was the sound of rain against the window, a kind word from a colleague, or the satisfaction of completing a task. Writing these moments down not only helps you appreciate them but also reinforces your ability to find joy in the small details of life. Another practice that fosters joy is engaging with the senses. Too often, we live in our heads, consumed by thoughts and worries, and disconnected from the physical world around us. By tuning into our senses, we can anchor ourselves in the present moment and discover a richness we might otherwise miss. For example, when eating a meal, take the time to truly savor it. Notice the colors, textures, and flavors on your plate. Instead of rushing through the meal while scrolling on your phone or watching TV, focus entirely on the act of eating. This simple practice can turn an everyday necessity into an experience of pleasure and mindfulness. Relationships also offer countless opportunities to create joy through attention. In our busy lives, it's easy to take the people we care about for granted, assuming they'll always be there. But when we make an effort to truly pay attention to our loved ones, we deepen our connections and create moments of shared happiness. The next time you're with a friend or family member, put away your phone and give them your full presence. Listen to what they are saying without planning your response, notice their expressions and body language, and let yourself be fully engaged in the interaction. These moments of connection, though simple, can become some of the most joyful and meaningful parts of our lives. Letting go of perfection is another crucial element of creating joy through attention. Life is messy, and not every moment will be ideal. There will be dishes in the sink, emails to answer, and days when things don't go as planned. But even within the imperfections, there is beauty to be found. A chip mug can still hold a delicious cup of tea, and a cloudy day can still offer a moment of quiet reflection. By focusing on what's present rather than what's missing, we free ourselves to appreciate life as it is, not as we think it should be. Finally, creating joy through attention requires us to slow down. In a culture that prizes speed and productivity, this can feel counterintuitive. But rushing through life only makes us miss the moments that truly matter. Slowing down doesn't mean doing less, it means being fully present for what you're doing. It means walking instead of rushing, savoring instead of consuming, and noticing instead of overlooking. When we slow down, we give ourselves the chance to truly experience life, and in doing so, we open ourselves to joy. By cultivating attention, we can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. Joy is not something we have to search for in far-off places or future achievements. It's something we create by being present and noticing the beauty in the here and now. Whether it's tending to a garden, enjoying a quiet cup of tea, or simply pausing to watch the world around us, the small moments of life hold immense potential for happiness. When we pay attention, we discover that joy has been with us all along, waiting patiently for us to notice. Number 7. The illusion of control. The illusion of control is one of the most persistent myths we cling to in life. We plan, strategize, and predict in an effort to manage every outcome and avoid uncertainty. While preparation and foresight are important, the truth is that much of life is beyond our control. No matter how carefully we try to shape our future, unforeseen circumstances will inevitably arise, disrupting our plans and challenging our sense of stability. It is in these moments that we are confronted with a choice: resist the flow of life, clinging to the illusion of control, or surrender to its natural currents and find peace in the process. Often, it is in letting go that we discover unexpected opportunities and growth. I learned this lesson during a significant career setback. I had been working toward a promotion for months, pouring my energy into the process and believing that it was the next logical step in my professional journey. I had mapped out my future with precision, imagining how this advancement would bring not only financial rewards but also a sense of accomplishment and purpose. However, when the decision was announced, I was passed over for the role. At first, I was devastated. I questioned my abilities, replayed every decision I had made, and struggled to understand why my hard work hadn't paid off. My initial reaction was to fight against the reality of the situation, trying to find ways to regain control. I thought, if I just work harder, I can fix this. But as weeks passed, I began to notice something surprising. With a promotion no longer an option, I started to explore opportunities I had previously dismissed. One of these was a side project I had been neglecting, a creative endeavor that had always brought me joy but seemed impractical compared to my career goals. Without the pressure of climbing the corporate ladder, I allowed myself to fully invest in this project. To my astonishment, it began to grow in ways I hadn't anticipated, leading to collaborations and experiences that enriched my life far beyond what the promotion could have offered. What felt like a failure at the time was actually a redirection, steering me toward a path that aligned more closely with my values and passions. The setback became a turning point, not because I controlled the outcome, but because I surrendered to what life was presenting. This experience taught me the profound freedom that comes from releasing the need to control. When we resist life's natural flow, we create tension and frustration, often blind to the opportunities that arise when plans change. Control, in many ways, is an illusion. Life is inherently unpredictable. However, surrendering to this unpredictability doesn't mean giving up. It means focusing on what we can control: our actions, attitudes, and reactions, while letting go of our attachment to specific outcomes. In doing so, we find a sense of peace that no amount of planning can provide. The need for control often stems from fear of failure, rejection, loss, or the unknown. We believe that by managing every detail, we can avoid pain or disappointment. Yet, paradoxically, this relentless striving for control often creates more stress and dissatisfaction. Consider a river. When we try to redirect its flow, we expend enormous energy fighting against its natural currents. But when we let the river take its course, we can move with it, adapting to its twists and turns. Life operates much the same way. Resisting its flow only leads to frustration, while surrendering allows us to navigate its challenges with grace and resilience. A practical way to embrace this mindset is to shift your focus from outcomes to processes. Instead of fixating on achieving a specific goal, concentrate on the effort and intention you bring to your actions. For example, if you're working on a project, focus on doing your best work in the present moment rather than worrying about how it will be received. By anchoring yourself in the process, you not only reduce anxiety but also open yourself to possibilities you might not have considered. Unexpected doors often open when we stop trying to control the ones we think should lead us forward. Another important practice is cultivating mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us stay present, grounding us in the here and now rather than getting caught up in the past or future. When uncertainty arises, it's easy to spiral into worst-case scenarios or dwell on what we wished we could change. Mindfulness interrupts this cycle, reminding us that we can only control what we do in this moment. Simple techniques like deep breathing, body scans, or observing your surroundings can help center your mind, creating space for clarity and acceptance. Gratitude is also a powerful tool for releasing the illusion of control. When we focus on what we already have, rather than what we fear losing or hope to gain, we begin to see life's abundance. Gratitude shifts our perspective, helping us recognize that even in times of uncertainty, there is still so much to appreciate. During my career setback, for instance, I began keeping a gratitude journal, listing 3 things each day that brought me joy or comfort. This practice didn't erase the disappointment, but it helped me see the silver linings and remain open to the new opportunities that eventually emerged. Letting go of control also involves accepting impermanence. Nothing in life is static, everything is in a constant state of change. This can be daunting, but it's also liberating. When we accept that change is inevitable, we can stop clinging to what was or what we think should be, and instead embrace what is. This mindset allows us to flow with life's changes rather than resist them, fostering a sense of peace and adaptability. Forgiveness is another crucial aspect of surrendering control. Sometimes, our inability to let go is tied to grudges or unresolved conflicts. We hold on to anger or blame, believing it gives us power or protects us from being hurt again. But in reality, this only weighs us down. Forgiveness is not about excusing harm, it's about freeing ourselves from the grip of resentment. By forgiving others and ourselves, we release the past and create space for growth and healing. Lastly, embracing uncertainty means recognizing the opportunities it brings. When life doesn't go as planned, it can feel like a loss of control. But often, these moments of disruption are where growth and transformation occur. They push us out of our comfort zones, encouraging us to explore new paths, develop new skills, and discover strengths we didn't know we had. My own experience taught me that setbacks are not the end of the road, they are detours, guiding us toward destinations we might never have reached otherwise. The illusion of control is comforting, but it is also limiting. When we cling to it, we close ourselves off to the possibilities that arise when life unfolds in unexpected ways. By surrendering to life's natural flow, we find not only peace but also a sense of freedom and curiosity. We learn to trust ourselves, adapt to change, and embrace the beauty of uncertainty. Life will always have its twists and turns, but when we let go of the need to control every aspect, we create space for growth, joy, and transformation. In surrendering, we don't lose power, we gain perspective. Number 8. Finding growth in discomfort. Growth rarely happens in comfort. It's in the moments of challenge, discomfort, and even failure that we are pushed to our limits and forced to confront the parts of ourselves that need transformation. While we instinctively avoid discomfort, seeing it as something negative, it is often the most powerful teacher we will ever encounter. Challenges present opportunities to grow stronger, wiser, and more resilient, if only we are willing to face them with openness and courage. I learned this firsthand during one of the most challenging periods of my life. Early in my career, I took on a major project that I was certain would define my trajectory. It was ambitious, high stakes, and exciting, everything I thought I wanted. But as the project unfolded, I made several critical missteps, from poor time management to underestimating the complexity of the work. Despite my best efforts, the project failed, and I was left not only disappointed but deeply embarrassed. My confidence plummeted, and I couldn't stop replaying every mistake, questioning whether I was truly capable of succeeding in my field. At first, I saw this failure as a dead end, a sign that I wasn't good enough. But over time, I began to view it differently. What initially felt like a personal defeat became a turning point in my growth. I took the time to reflect on what had gone wrong, not from a place of self-pity, but with a genuine desire to learn. I realized that my failure wasn't a result of my abilities, but of my approach. I had tried to do everything on my own, hesitant to ask for help or admit when I didn't have the answers. I also recognized that I had let fear of imperfection drive my decisions, focusing more on avoiding mistakes than on doing my best work. Armed with these insights, I made a conscious decision to change. I started asking for feedback more often, seeking out mentors who could guide me and being honest about my limitations. I also adopted a mindset of curiosity, treating challenges not as obstacles to fear but as puzzles to solve. This shift not only improved my work but also helped me develop a resilience I hadn't known I was capable of. Looking back, I realized that failure wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new chapter, one where growth became more important than perfection. Discomfort, whether it comes in the form of failure, conflict, or uncertainty, has a way of breaking us open, exposing our vulnerabilities and forcing us to adapt. This process can feel deeply uncomfortable, but it's also where growth happens. Just as muscles grow stronger through the stress of exercise, we become stronger through the challenges we face. However, this growth isn't automatic. It requires us to approach discomfort with the right mindset. The first step is to reframe how we see challenges. Instead of viewing them as problems to avoid, we can begin to see them as opportunities for growth. This shift in perspective makes a world of difference. When we stop resisting discomfort and start asking, "What can I learn from this?" we move from a mindset of fear to one of curiosity. For example, when a conflict arises in a relationship, it's easy to focus on the frustration or hurt it causes. But if we approach the situation with openness, we might discover an opportunity to better understand the other person, strengthen the bond, or learn how to communicate more effectively. Another important practice is cultivating self-awareness during moments of discomfort. When we are faced with a challenge, our natural instinct is often to react impulsively, either by trying to fix the situation immediately or by avoiding it altogether. But if we take a moment to pause and reflect, we can respond more thoughtfully. Ask yourself, why does this situation make me uncomfortable? What is it teaching me about myself? These questions can reveal patterns, fears, or limiting beliefs that might otherwise go unnoticed. By bringing these insights to light, we empower ourselves to grow. Discomfort also teaches us the value of persistence. Growth is rarely immediate, and the path forward often involves setbacks and detours. When we are in the midst of a challenge, it's easy to feel like giving up, especially when progress seems slow or invisible. But growth is a process, not a destination. Each step we take, no matter how small, builds resilience and moves us closer to our goals. The key is to stay committed, even when the journey feels uncertain or overwhelming. Another lesson discomfort offers is the importance of vulnerability. When we are struggling, it's tempting to put up walls, hiding our challenges from others out of fear of judgment or rejection. But vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. By sharing our struggles with trusted friends, family, or mentors, we open ourselves to support, advice, and encouragement. This not only lightens the burden but also deepens our connections with others. During my own period of growth, I found that being honest about my challenges led to some of the most meaningful relationships in my life. People were more willing to help than I had imagined, and their guidance became an invaluable part of my journey. One of the most powerful tools for finding growth in discomfort is journaling. Writing about your experiences, emotions, and thoughts can help you process them in a constructive way. It allows you to track your progress, identify patterns, and uncover lessons you might not notice in the moment. During my career setback, journaling became a daily ritual that helped me make sense of what I was going through. I wrote about my fears, my failures, and, most importantly, the small victories I achieved along the way. Over time, those pages became a record of my growth, a reminder of how far I had come and a source of motivation to keep going. Gratitude is another practice that can help us navigate discomfort. When we're in the midst of a challenge, it's easy to focus on what's wrong or what we lack. But by intentionally focusing on what we're grateful for, we can shift our perspective and find strength to move forward. Gratitude doesn't erase the difficulty, but it reminds us that even in tough times, there are still things to appreciate. This balance helps us approach challenges with a sense of hope rather than despair. Lastly, finding growth in discomfort requires us to embrace uncertainty. Life is unpredictable, and challenges often arise in ways we don't expect. While this can be unsettling, it's also what makes growth possible. Uncertainty forces us to adapt, to think creatively, and to step outside our comfort zones. It's in these moments of uncertainty that we discover what we are truly capable of. By letting go of the need for certainty and control, we free ourselves to explore new possibilities and embrace the unknown. Growth through discomfort is not an easy path, but it is a rewarding one. Each challenge we face has the potential to teach us something valuable about ourselves and the world around us. By approaching these moments with openness, self-awareness, and persistence, we transform discomfort from an obstacle into a catalyst for change. In the end, it's not the challenges themselves that define us, but how we respond to them. And in responding with courage and curiosity, we discover the strength, resilience, and wisdom that allow us to grow into the best versions of ourselves. Number 9. The power of letting go. Letting go is one of the most liberating yet challenging practices we can embrace. Whether it's releasing material possessions, outdated beliefs, or emotional attachments, the act of letting go creates space, not just physical space, but emotional and mental clarity as well. It allows us to move forward unburdened by what no longer serves us, making room for new opportunities, relationships, and perspectives. Yet, for many, the idea of letting go feels daunting, even threatening. We cling to things because they provide a sense of security, familiarity, or identity. However, it is in the act of releasing that we often discover a profound sense of freedom and growth. I experienced this firsthand when I decided to declutter my home after years of accumulating belongings. At first, it seemed like a simple task: go through my closets, sort through old boxes, and get rid of what I no longer needed. But when I started, I realized it wasn't just about the physical objects. Many of the items I held onto carried emotional weight, gifts from people I no longer spoke to, clothes I hadn't worn in years but felt guilty about discarding, and sentimental keepsakes that I thought defined certain moments of my life. Each object seemed to whisper, "You might need me again someday," or "Throwing me away means losing a part of yourself." One particular item, a small, cracked mug that had belonged to my grandmother, became a symbol of this struggle. It had been her favorite, and after she passed, I held onto it as a way of preserving her memory. But it sat unused on a shelf, gathering dust, serving no real purpose other than as a reminder of my unwillingness to let go. One day, as I stood holding the mug, I asked myself, does this object truly honor her memory, or is it just a placeholder for something I already carry within me? I realized that what I cherished about my grandmother wasn't tied to the mug but to the memories, lessons, and love she had given me. Keeping the mug didn't make those things any more real or lasting. With a deep breath, I decided to let it go. I donated it, along with other sentimental items, to a local charity. And while the act was bittersweet, it also felt like a weight had been lifted. I wasn't losing her. I was simply releasing an attachment that no longer served me. This experience taught me that letting go of material possessions is often a metaphor for deeper emotional work. The objects we cling to are not just things, they represent memories, identities, and even fears. By releasing them, we confront these emotions and gain a clearer sense of who we are without the weight of unnecessary attachments. Decluttering isn't just about creating physical space, it's about creating mental clarity and emotional freedom. The same principle applies to letting go of emotional attachments. We often hold onto relationships, grudges, or expectations long after they've stopped serving us. For example, many people remain in toxic friendships or romantic relationships because they fear the uncertainty of life without that connection. They tell themselves, "At least I know what to expect here," even if what they expect is unhappiness. But by holding onto these attachments, they close themselves off to healthier, more fulfilling relationships. Letting go doesn't mean dismissing the value of what once was, it means acknowledging that it has run its course and making room for something new. Forgiveness is another form of letting go that brings immense freedom. Holding onto resentment or anger towards someone who has wronged us feels, in the moment, like a form of control or protection. But in reality, it only keeps us tethered to the pain of the past. When we forgive, we are not excusing the behavior, we are choosing to release the emotional burden it placed on us. Forgiveness is for our own healing, a way to reclaim the energy and peace that holding onto anger depletes. It allows us to move forward unencumbered, creating space for joy and connection. Letting go also involves releasing our attachment to perfection. Many of us strive to control every detail of our lives, believing that if we can just get everything right, we'll find happiness or success. But this perfectionism often leads to stress, dissatisfaction, and a fear of failure. By letting go of the need to control every outcome, we open ourselves to the beauty of imperfection. Life, like art, is often most beautiful in its flaws and spontaneity. When we accept that not everything will go according to plan, we free ourselves to enjoy the journey rather than obsessing over the destination. One of the most powerful tools for letting go is mindfulness. Mindfulness helps us stay present, grounding us in the here and now rather than fixating on what we've lost or fear losing. Through practices like meditation or journaling, we can learn to observe our attachments without judgment, identifying what truly matters and what we can release. For example, when I was decluttering, journaling helped me process my emotions around certain items, allowing me to see that my attachment was often more about fear than value. Writing about these feelings gave me the clarity and courage to let go. Gratitude is another practice that facilitates letting go. When we focus on what we are thankful for, we shift our attention from scarcity to abundance. Instead of clinging to what we don't want to lose, we begin to appreciate what we already have. This mindset helps us release attachments with a sense of peace rather than fear. For example, when I let go of my grandmother's mug, I focused on the gratitude I felt for the memories I shared with her. This perspective transformed the act of letting go from one of loss to one of celebration. Letting go isn't always easy, and it often involves discomfort. But within that discomfort lies the potential for growth. Each time we release something, a possession, a belief, a relationship, or an expectation, we learn something about ourselves. We discover our capacity for resilience, adaptability, and joy. We begin to see that our worth isn't tied to what we own or what we hold onto, but to who we are and how we show up in the world. In the end, letting go is an act of trust in ourselves, in the process of life, and in the idea that by creating space, we make room for something better. It's a practice of faith that what is meant for us will come and what is no longer needed will fall away. And in that space, we find not only freedom but also the possibility of growth, transformation, and a deeper connection to what truly matters. Number 10. Living with intention. Living with intention means approaching each day with clarity, purpose, and awareness, rather than drifting through life on autopilot. It's about making conscious choices that align with your values, goals, and priorities, transforming even the simplest actions into meaningful steps toward a life you truly want. In a world filled with distractions and endless demands, intentionality offers the way to reclaim your time, energy, and focus, allowing you to live with greater fulfillment and purpose. This practice isn't about rigid control or perfection, it's about being present and deliberate in how you show up for yourself and others. My journey toward living with intention began during a time when I felt overwhelmed and disconnected from my life. My days blurred together in a cycle of routines, responsibilities, and tasks that, while necessary, left me feeling unfulfilled. I realized I was going through the motions, reacting to whatever came my way rather than actively shaping my experiences. One evening, as I reflected on my day, I couldn't remember a single moment that felt meaningful. It was a wake-up call. I needed to take control of how I approached my life. I decided to experiment with setting daily intentions, a practice I had read about but never seriously considered. Instead of starting my day by diving straight into tasks or scrolling through my phone, I began with a few minutes of quiet reflection. Each morning, I asked myself, what do I want to focus on today? How do I want to show up in the world? These questions weren't about creating a to-do list but about identifying a guiding principle for the day. For example, one day my intention might be to approach challenges with patience, another day, it might be to express gratitude or to be fully present in my interactions. This simple practice had an immediate and profound impact on my daily life. By setting an intention, I gave myself a sense of direction and purpose. It became easier to prioritize my time and energy because I knew what mattered most to me that day. When distractions or challenges arose, I could return to my intention as an anchor, reminding myself of what I wanted to cultivate. For instance, on a day when my intention was to practice kindness, I found myself responding more patiently to frustrating situations and making an effort to uplift others, even in small ways. These seemingly minor choices added up, creating a sense of alignment and satisfaction that had been missing before. Living with intention also helped me cultivate gratitude. When I set an intention to focus on the positive aspects of my day, I became more aware of the small joys and blessings that I might otherwise overlook. I started keeping a gratitude journal, jotting down moments that brought me happiness or peace. Some entries were as simple as enjoying a quiet cup of tea or hearing birdsong in the morning, while others reflected deeper connections, like a meaningful conversation with a friend. Over time, this practice shifted my perspective, making me more attuned If there's one message to carry forward from today's reflection, let it be this: happiness isn't in chasing, it's in savoring. The present moment, however fleeting, is a gift waiting to be unwrapped, a treasure hiding in plain sight. By adopting the philosophy of Ichigo Ichie, you can transform even the simplest actions like sipping tea or taking a walk into meaningful rituals of mindfulness and gratitude. Remember, you don't need to change your entire life to find joy. Start small. Practice mindful breathing, keep a gratitude journal, or simply pause to notice the beauty around you. These tiny shifts can ripple into profound transformations. Now, it's your turn. What's one moment you'll savor today? Let us know in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Buddha's Odyssey for more inspiring insights and stories. Together, let's make every moment count, one mindful breath, one heartfelt connection, and one extraordinary day at a time. See you in the next video.